I will ask a final question, and then we'll make a closing statement. I have here a sheet from Toyota called the Toyota Management Team. And it's interesting because the president and member of the board is obviously Akio Toyoda. There are 5 executive vice presidents. There are innumerable senior managing directors, and there are directors, members of the board, just 2. And of the 5 executive vice presidents, members of the board, directly under the president, Akio Toyoda, 2 of them are on our panel today, Mr. Sasaki and Mr. Uchiyamada. And that's why I think there is some, you feel, or we feel, we both feel some frustration in trying to communicate our effort to get to the bottom of some of our questions. It's the question of accountability. Who is accountable? Who makes decisions? Many questions have come back that we are doing recalls as if that were a problem solver, and it is not necessarily a problem solver. We will get back to you on that. That is not a direct answer. I think there is more knowledge at the table than has disclosed itself. I don't say that rudely, I just say that in perhaps a typical American-Japanese inability to communicate as effectively as we should on a particularly important issue, both to us in terms of safety and you in terms of safety, and some loss of confidence in your product. But, you know, all the way since Senator Nelson said this, since at least 2002, a long time ago, thousands of Toyota and Lexus owners in the United States have complained to Toyota that they experienced sudden unintended acceleration. So they have been doing that ever since, thousands and thousands of them. These Toyota owners told Toyota the brakes would not overpower the surging vehicle. A number of them have even had smoking brakes and melted hubcaps to prove it. I believe Senator Klobuchar made that point. However, Toyota, in this person's judgment, did not listen to its customers, and it sent out letters like this, which obviously nobody can read, but I can, and I'll quote from it. It's rather cold. It's rather cold. The key paragraph says, in order for this accident to have occurred as a result of unintended acceleration, there would have to be a simultaneous failure of 2 totally independent systems, namely the brake and throttle systems. Our inspections confirmed that these systems were purely functional, and therefore it simply sort of tossed off the agony of this owner. Now, the evidence that everyone has now seen points to the exact opposite conclusion, and we've been trying to get at that, which is that brakes could not control a surging vehicle. So now we're talking about electronic systems, brake overrides. You mentioned an outside consultant called Exponent, but this report tested only 6 vehicles. It's not good enough, not good enough. So let me give you an example of one person who I think makes the point. Last August, a Bill Shepard of Monrovia, California. I do not know the man, but my staff has talked to both him and the master mechanic that I'm about to explain. This person experienced an incident of sudden, unintended acceleration in his 2004 Camry. That was a long time ago. He was pulling into his garage at the time and then just, I guess, pulled back into the living room or something. At first, the master mechanic at Mr. Shepard's local repair shop told him, as in a sense you have indicated to us, that it was impossible, his words, that the Camry's electronic system caused the problem. He said it was impossible. But Mr. Shepard was a stubborn man, and he insisted that this mechanic keep running tests because he felt that there was some other reason for his surge, which he did not like and which was threatening. And about a week later, it turns out, the mechanic ran a test after running tests a lot, not just once, not just twice, but for a period of about a week. He ran a test after a week in which the accelerator pedal position sensor indeed failed. And so, lo and behold, it was not, it just changed, it changed everything. It changed everything. In other words, there was a problem in the electronic throttle system. Now, Mr. Shepard reported this finding to both Toyota, this is back in 2004, to both Toyota and to NHTSA, and to my tremendous sorrow, I have to tell you that neither NHTSA nor Toyota has ever given a response to Mr. Shepard. So, symbolically, and really, I ask you today, we have talked to both him and to his master mechanic at length. I ask you today, will you be in touch with this man? We will give you his address. Because we didn't have a chance today to get into how you handle complaints. That's so key. To what level do they rise? What does the board know about them? Does the board meet as all the people I suggested, or is there an executive committee, which is hinted at in the organizational table? How do these things come to the attention? That was my frustration, my first round of questions, when I tried to find out when were these decisions changed, if they were changed, which they were, because your president has admitted to that. Safety took a second seat to profits. In Japanese culture and in Japanese corporations, things do not happen by chance. They happen by decision. And I failed to get an answer about that, and I regret that. But you made the statement, in a sense, that recalls equal doing the job properly, taking care of the situation. Then it was suggested, is that a public relations effort, or is that really solving the problem? There was no answer forthcoming. One of you indicated that 20% of the outstanding Toyotas in America have brake override systems now. But then you mentioned that by the year 2010, perhaps the end of it, it will be completed. What will be completed? And I ask you this question. Obviously, the brake override system is the solution. So you have a problem. You have the Toyotas that you make from this point forward in your 10 plants here, and you have the Toyotas that have already been made going back to 2002 or before. If you solve, by putting in a brake override system, the Toyotas that are made from this point forward, or starting, let's say, a year ago, that's good. But why is a new Toyota and a new Toyota owner less important than an older Toyota and a previous or older Toyota owner? Their lives are the same, their value is the same, the human being are equal in their capacity to be protected. And So I will just ask this question. Is it not fair to suggest that Toyota should make an override system for all Toyotas? The older ones where the electronics were less complicated and the computer system was less complicated, as well as the new ones where things are more complicated. And then you might say to me, well, that is very expensive. And then I might say to you, that spread out over the entire fleet, the expense will be less substantially. And I also might say that maybe the expense doesn't matter because these are human beings and they are loyal customers, as shown by the fact they still have the Toyotas they bought years ago. And further, I might ask you this question. Supposing I was, I bought a Toyota a Camry back in 2004, and it was an older system, and I had a surge problem, an unexpected surge problem. I was deeply distressed by it. I was afraid to drive the car because of my children, because of myself, because of whoever. And so I traded that automobile. I sold that automobile to somebody else. Well, that brings up a whole new question. Is it proper to say that once the car is out of the hands of the original purchaser, but now in the hands of another American owner, it still has this defect or potential defect in it? Why would one trade or sell a defective, potentially defective, and I go back to the Shepard case where he worked at it and worked at it and worked at it, and he found out, yes, there was a defect. Why would somebody be traded or sold a defective car? Is that moral? Is that ethical? Is that proper? Is that good business practice for Toyota? Now, I've asked you many questions, and I apologize for that, but I've said what I wanted to say, that what I think we wanted to get, and we've gotten some hint of that, but not explicitly, real answers to real problems. Not just we're doing a recall, and therefore we'll solve the problem, but we're going to make sure that every Toyota car on the road in the United States of America is safe and has a brake override. Now, I'll just stop there, and you can answer in any way that you wish.
それではまず私からお話をさせていただきたいと思います。
Allow me to speak first.
議長、どうもたくさんの我々に対するコメントありがとうございました。
Well, thank you very much, Chairman, for giving us many pieces of comments.
これまでの対応の中で我々自身、これはそのグローバルトヨタコーポレートも含めてですが、対応のやり方に改善すべき点が多くあるということは我々も十分理解をしております。
We understand fully that there is a big room for improvement upon ourselves in the way in which we have dealt with so far in the past as a global Toyota corporation.
重ねて申し上げますが、我々の車作りの重点の順番は安全、品質、そして量ということで、これはずっと一貫して変わったことはございません。
Allow me to repeat this. When we manufacture our vehicles, our priorities are number one, safety, number two, quality, and then number three, delivery. This importance order has never been changed.
ただ、お客様が我々トヨタの製品ですとか、実際に起きているリコールの量とかで期待しているものとギャップが出てきているということも我々も十分認識しておりますし、このような状態になったことを何とかしなくてはいけないというふうに思っております。
Having said that, we are fully aware of the fact that Perhaps we haven't lived up to the expectations on the part of our customers vis-a-vis our product when we consider the amount of recalls that we had to execute. And we are feeling that we have to do something about it right away.
開発の面では私自身が、みんなの先頭に立って昔の、トヨタのように皆さんが思っていただけるイメージに早く戻るように先頭に立って努力をしていきます。
In the development side, I will be standing on the front line and working very hard so that people will once again have the image of Toyota that we were able to instill into people in the past.
I would respond to that, and I will close here shortly by saying that the complaints began to come in 2002 by the thousands. So to say that you will respond immediately and that you regret for your customers, I understand that. What I do not understand is the lack of response earlier. It seems to me that it would have been so much in the custom of the Toyota company that I have known over the years. But you talk about we will do something immediately. Let me just say this. Will you contact Mr. Shepard? We'll give you his address and number.
Yes, sir. I will do so.
And the mechanic.
Yes.
The Japanese transport minister Seiji Maehara, appearing at a nationwide broadcast news show on Sunday, complained that Toyota's, quote, corporate culture, close quote, reflected a reluctance to be forthright on recalls. The company is not taking the problem as seriously as it should, he said, saying the company quality chief, Shinichi Sasaki, came to explain the problems to the ministry only after being asked to do so. I do not require a response on that. And I will go to my closing statement, if that is all right. This has been useful, but not as useful as it should have been. And I regret that because I know what kind of company you are and can be again. And maybe it's simply, as when I was a student in Japan, Japanese and Americans sometimes have different ways of talking to each other, and what appear to be clear questions on the part of Americans may not be seen that way by the Japanese. But on the other hand, we're now talking about a professional problem which has affected Toyota in tens of billions of dollars of lost net worth and affected a lot of people in this country in ways which they have experienced or they have yet to experience unless the brake control is made universal. So let me just do my closing statement. I want to thank all of our witnesses today for your cooperation in making sure the committee got all the information it was looking for. I would have to do a little caveat to that, I guess. We have had a very full and long day, and with the ongoing work of this committee, which will take place, two things are already very clear to me. First, Toyota needs to restore its customers' confidence and trust and seriously recommit itself to quality and to open communication. And car makers should be required to provide the hardware that dealers need to read electronic data recorders. My second point was that the U.S. government has to do a much better job of keeping the American people safe. Please understand, we had an all-morning hearing with NHTSA, and it was not one that was pleasant for them. Mr. Ditlow is here and can testify to that. And I thank you, sir, for all that you would have said, could have said, and did say. In my case, I firmly believe that this is going to require strong legislative action. To name just a few examples I have in mind, it is clear that we need to revisit the TREAD Act. We must seriously consider a rulemaking mandating brake override. And car makers should be required to provide the hardware that dealers need to read electronic data recorders. And fourth, we should also require senior executives to certify the information their companies provide to NHTSA that it is 100% correct and accurate. That is usual and customary, and it must take place. I have other ideas. Those are just mine. I know my colleagues do too. If we are really serious about making sure this does not happen again, we need to work aggressively and together on this effort. And that is what I intend to do with my colleagues. As I said earlier, I have over 1,000 workers in my state who depend on, who work at Toyota, who have won the highest awards in most years, I think 5 consecutive years, maybe 6 consecutive years, for being the most productive. I want them to be protected as they drive their Toyota cars, and I want them to be employed because people have confidence in you and therefore are buying your product. We have to get back to that, not obviously just for West Virginia's sake, but for your sake and the country's sake. I have every confidence that you can earn back the trust of your consumers and that you can earn back the trust of the American people. Every single Toyota owner deserves a full accounting of what happened and why, and a clear indication of what we here today are going to do to make sure that safety is never second place. Having said that, I again thank you. We tried to make the questioning not histrionic, but professional, fact-based, and we've each tried to communicate with each other as well as we could. And I do appreciate the fact that at least 2 of you have flown all the way from Japan for this hearing. So I'm grateful. I'm looking forward to a strong and complicated future, but I'm always an optimist. This hearing is adjourned.